I'm a fourth generation resident of the city of St. Paul, Minnesota. I've grown up in the prosperity of this city, but as I've listened to the family stories from throughout the generations, our family's story is very much rooted in the civil rights era. My great-grandparents came here from Paris, Texas, which at the time was notorious for being one of the most violently racist towns in Texas and in the country. My great-grandfather, actually as a young child, saw one of the most notorious lynchings in American history when two African-American men were tarred and feathered. That was one of the reasons they left Paris, Texas to come to Minnesota. I went to Florida A&M University, which is a fantastic university, one of the largest historically black colleges in the country, and was there during what ended up being quite an immersion experience for many of us. We were there during Census 2000 and having deep conversations about why it matters so much that everyone be counted. We were there during a series of hate bombings in which someone let off a series of racially motivated pipe bombs on campus, and suddenly our campus was occupied by the FBI. You had to walk around with your student ID around your neck or be questioned by the FBI. And we were there during, my first chance to vote in a presidential election was election 2000. And so we were in the capital of Florida at the time. My brother-in-law told me, everyone living here is going to vote today. And so we got in the car and we went to go vote, and we waited in line for 45 minutes, something like that. And when we got to the front of the line, he was turned away from the polls. It felt like a Twilight Zone experience. We were upset, like we were angry. We stood there arguing. We were embarrassed. It was frustrating. In the end, for me, it was just hard to reconcile. I think the notion that we learn about all our lives of this America that's special because everyone who wants a say gets a say, with this experience standing there in the year 2000 in the state of Florida arguing the right to vote. That experience, and it was replicated by hundreds of our classmates who were turned away from the polls that year. It was the most profound feeling of like social powerlessness I've ever felt in my life, and it just didn't sit right with us. And so, I tell folks all the time, if I had to sum up my political career and my political, hopes in one sentence, it's that, my children and, your children, that no one should ever have to feel that way ever again. There have definitely been protests and movements, both before I was born. Recently, we've had a lot of them. Philando Castile went to my high school with my younger sister, and the school that he taught at was the school that my children both went to kindergarten at. I worked for the governor at the time, and one of the first images that we all saw when we woke up that next morning was the Facebook Live video of Philando Castile's last breaths. I can't come up with any good justification why he should have been killed. He was in the car on his way home from the grocery store, I think, with his girlfriend and their 4-year-old daughter in the back, and the trauma that video shows in that family wasn't limited to that 4-year-old or that family. It was resonated across the country, and it was certainly felt right here as people both watched the video, but also he worked at one of our schools, and so we had to sit with second and third graders and talk about what happened as they were both confused and angry about the national media story that they saw, but also were missing Mr. Phil, who they were used to seeing in the cafeteria at lunch. And so that's been something that's really hurt our community a lot. When we see some of the just really ugly things that happen across the country and happen even in our local community, it really helps to call people, I think, off the bench to say you have to participate in this moment. That there's a real clear set of choices right now that back in the 60s and even in the 50s, and when we see the videos of the marches and demonstrations, there was a real clear kind of right versus wrong that was going on. That I think as some of those victories, some of those legislative and even economic victories stacked up, became less clear for folks. And so, my hope is that this moment right now makes it clear that we are still choosing, that we still have to choose right, we still have to choose inclusion, we still have to choose love as a country, and that there's still another side to all of that.